Okay, let's dive right into this. Welcome to today's explainer, where we're digging into a fascinating piece of writing about a feeling I think, well, we all know a little too well. You know that sheer exhaustion of constantly second-guessing yourself? That heavy, really draining feeling when you just kind of can't trust your own actions? Today, we're going to explore how building a sense of quiet confidence might actually come from doing less, not more. So tell me if this sounds familiar. Have you ever walked out of your house, taken a few steps down the street, and suddenly your brain just whispers, wait, did I really lock the front door? Or maybe you've crossed the street, and halfway across you suddenly think, hold on, was that traffic light actually green? Or what about that weird hesitation right before you seal an important envelope, even though you know you just signed the document? These are incredibly common, deeply relatable, everyday experiences that the source text brings directly into the spotlight.
We really all have a whole list of these micro-checks, don't we? Checking document names and numbers over and over, verifying those locks, repeatedly opening smartphone notifications for literally no reason, reviewing email recipients a dozen times before finally hitting send, or constantly double-checking a shopping list. Now, on the surface, every single one of these tiny actions seems completely harmless. I mean, it just takes a second, right? But the source material points out a hidden, much bigger cost. As these micro-checks accumulate throughout your day, they slowly, almost invisibly erode the trust we have in our own memory and our own judgment. We basically start relying on the act of checking instead of trusting ourselves.
Section 1. The endless checking loop, and why it feels like a trap. You see, every time we give in to that urge to verify something we already know, we're actually disrupting our own mental peace, trapping ourselves in this incredibly frustrating, repetitive cycle. We often tell ourselves, oh, I'm just being careful. But there is a massive distinction to make here. Healthy caution is checking once to ensure accuracy and safety, and that's a good thing. But anxiety-driven checking? That's checking repeatedly just to soothe a recurring feeling of dread. We assume constant checking means we're just highly diligent workers or, responsible people. But the text reveals it's actually an unhelpful anxiety response. When a single check turns into 2 or 3, well, we've officially crossed the border from caution straight into anxiety.
And that leads us to a really counterintuitive truth. Checking doesn't cure your anxiety, it literally feeds it. When you check that lock for the 3rd time, sure, you get about 1 second of relief. But perversely, that fleeting relief trains your brain. Your brain registers, the physical act of checking worked to lower my fear. Over time, you begin to rely entirely on the behavior of checking rather than trusting your own internal judgment. You are essentially teaching your brain that your own memory cannot be trusting.
Section 2. Trusting your brain's memory and the science of what we retain.
Because here is the truth, your brain is working perfectly fine, and we have the psychological research to prove it. Memory researcher Elizabeth Loft has found something absolutely incredible. People unconsciously retain highly accurate memories of information they only glanced at for a split second. Our brains are these remarkable recording devices. Think about a time you walked out of a convenience store and somehow just knew the exact price of an item you merely glanced at. Or when you perfectly recalled a passing train announcement days later without even trying. Your brain captures those details flawlessly, which completely validates your cognitive abilities. You absolutely do remember.
So, the crucial takeaway here is this. The problem isn't your memory at all, it's your fear of failure. The source explains that this whole checking habit usually stems from a past mistake. You got something wrong once, it stung, and now your brain issues constant false alarms just to protect you. It's screaming danger even when you're just writing a totally routine email. This means the root issue isn't an actual memory failure. It's simply a lack of trust in yourself, completely fueled by an old fear.
Section 3. The do not check practice. Building self-reliance safely.
Okay, so how do we actually fix this? Let's shift gears from the psychology of the problem to some actionable, really encouraging guidance that you can apply to your daily life starting today. To understand the solution, we need to look at a clinical concept called exposure therapy. Simply put, it's a psychological treatment that involves safely facing fears to decrease anxiety and break avoidance habits. Now, don't worry, you don't need to be in a clinical setting to apply this to your microchecks. The author suggests that simply holding back the urge to check something acts as your own personal mini exposure therapy. When you just sit with that uncomfortable feeling of not checking, you're building a tolerance to the anxiety. And over time, as your brain realizes nothing catastrophic actually happened, that anxiety naturally fades away.
Here's how you can practice this with a few low-stakes challenges. Step 1. Look at a shopping list only once, then just put it away while you shop. Step 2. Try typing a friend's phone number entirely from memory. Step 3, try copying a whiteboard in a meeting without constantly looking up and down, up and down. So the really crucial point here is that you must choose safe situations where a mistake won't ruin your life. If you forget a grocery item or, dial the wrong digit, the world is not going to end. You are just creating a safe little sandbox to practice not checking.
Now, what if you do actually make a mistake during one of those challenges? Well, good. Actually, mistakes are necessary to build self-trust. We really need to completely reframe failure here. Getting a phone number wrong and then simply hitting backspace to fix it teaches your brain a highly vital lesson. Mistakes are easily fixable. You need this exact experience of surviving a minor error to convince your brain that failure isn't the total disaster it thinks it is. That realization is exactly what truly eliminates the fear of failure.
Section 4. Expanding trust in life, from self to others.
By developing this internal shift, what the Japanese source beautifully implies as a gentle ma-ika, or basically an it's fine mindset, the benefits actually ripple outward. It drastically improves how we interact with the entire world around us. Think about our old habits for a second. They usually involve repeatedly checking if someone remembered a task you gave them, or endlessly rehashing conversations just to ensure there were absolutely no misunderstandings. It is such an exhausting way to micromanage your relationships. But the new habit, it's about trusting they heard you the first time. It's about letting go of that lingering tension and simply trusting the exchange. And this brilliantly illustrates a really profound truth. You cannot truly trust others until you trust yourself. Self-trust is the true foundation for interpersonal trust. When you stop second-guessing your own memory, you stop second-guessing other people's capabilities too.
Here is a really empowering truth for you. A small choice today becomes a massive change tomorrow. I strongly encourage you to try not checking just one time today. Pick something incredibly minor and just let it be. Because this kind of quiet confidence we've been talking about, it isn't some magical talent you're simply born with. It is a highly practiced habit. It's built in those tiny, everyday moments where you consciously choose to let go of the urge to verify. We're going to wrap up on this incredibly powerful thought straight from the source material. The choice not to check nurtures the quietest confidence. I think it perfectly summarizes our journey today. Escaping that endless loop of second-guessing isn't about having a flawless, perfect memory. It's about giving yourself the grace to just be human. So, I'll leave you with this final thought to ponder. What is one small, completely insignificant thing in your life that you can finally just let go of and simply trust yourself with today?